To the Connected Play session. We're going to start off the session with Lauren Elliot. Lauren is a 30 years veteran of Connected Play, and he actually began on Will Wright's first game, Raid to Bungling Bay, and he's authored countless games, but he's extremely well known for Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. He also runs the Berkeley Hardware Startup Meetup and is really a leader in this space of connected play, advising and bringing companies from the startup to product with his wisdom. And please come up, Lauren.
Tish, I don't know if you're up. I have to turn this. Is this thing on? Oh, it is on. Let's see if I get it organized. Well, I'm going to be a little bit different, I think, than others. I'm going to give you a kind of a history of my participation in connected play. And so, in my view, I'm having a tremendous amount of fun. I've been doing this for a long time, as Tish said, and I started out in the computer industry. A lot of you are about half my age, probably. But I did this back in the early 80s, and from there I went to, I'm going to do a kind of an overview of starting with the gaming industry, back when it became networked, all up to Steve Jobs and the iPhone, crowdsourcing, the maker movement, and where we are today. Back in the 80s, I just wandered into, as many of the designers that I know now, including Will Wright, kind of wandered into it. I wandered into a company called Bruderman Software and decided that it would be fun designing games for them. And I spent the next 13 years doing that. And this was my first toy. I had others before that, but that was the first one I did. And I did Where in the World, of course. And I did about 6 versions of it. This is the artwork I like better than what we put out, but this was done after I came out with it. Then what happened was these games became locally connected. So I don't know if you remember, but you could go into these, like the mall, and you could play Ethernet connected games. So all these computers would be connected, and the kids would be in there playing all kinds of space and war games. After that, World of Warcraft, a bunch of others, started connecting to the internet. So all of these became a sort of globally social, which was the kind of the next step to me in turning them into connected games. But they were still connected sort of socially, but not to the world. And a lot of companies at that time were playing around with controllers, and the Wii was the first one in my mind that connected the kind of social games to the real world, in the sense that you had the remote in your hand and were interacting. Then they became portable. The cell phone movement, which is, cell phones are about 50 years old, but the smartphone itself was really launched by Jobs in the late 90s. And that became the first time that all of these sensors and the portable play was truly portable. And then it moved from there into sort of crowd-based intelligence for a lot of these games. This kind of convergence, to me, is one of the more interesting for all of the kind of connected play. When I started, you're sitting at a computer playing by yourself, and then by the late 90s, early 2000s, you were playing with a global population. And my son, who grew up with computers, ended up playing games. He plays games now, but they're connected. He was connected even as a young man with players from all over the world. About that time, about 6 years ago, I did a hardware startup for this thing, which was called Seaport, which was it's a device that sat on your kitchen counter. You put another one on the kitchen counter of your mom in Boston, and the thing was live all the time. So it was like a live video window between yourself and your mom, and you would walk by and say hi, and she'd say hi back, and you'd get on with your day. To me, that was the first. It was the first sense I had of this sort of connectivity of what difference was. I had one down in San Diego at my grandson's, who was 4 at the time, and it sat in the kitchen counter, and what he would do was he would come by and he'd knock on it and say, Lauren, and I'd hear him in the kitchen. I'd come back down. He'd tell me a knock-knock joke, and then he'd disappear. And this went on all day. At one point, I timed him. He had 32 knock-knock jokes in about a space of about 3 hours. But what was cool about it was that when I went down to San Diego to visit him, which I don't do as often as I should, he came to the front door, opened it up, said, "Hi, Grandpa," and split. Because he had this kind of connection with me, so it wasn't that kind of, you didn't recognize me, or he didn't know who I was, or I had to say, how you've grown. But it was the first time I got the sense that this kind of connection could be had, and this was the kind of thing it did, which was very cool. And you could sit and play with it. The true crowd intelligence part of it is relatively new. This was, I don't know if some of you guys play with any of the sort of crowd-based exploration stuff. This is a company that was looking for new stars and planets, and this came out in 2007 actually. And in the first year, it was a crowdsourced exploration platform. They discovered more than 50 million galaxy classifications and made by 150,000 of these people calling in. That was in 1 year. They had managed to do this. Since then, there's been a lot of sort of a movement from there to the real world. This is Ingress, but there's a lot of people that are doing the kind of gaming into the real world, and that includes the company that I have part to do with, as Jason does, called Entertainment, which is Will Wright's new company, and we're very definitely kind of the next step after Ingress, which is playing you in the real world. And then along came the maker movement, which I think profoundly changed what our vision of being connected was. Sort of 3D printers, I think, are sort of emblematic of this movement, putting the opportunity of making your own stuff into everybody's hands. This whole maker movement and this kind of idea has come up with all kinds of new devices, the connected thermostats to connected devices, and I'd be remiss if I didn't put Sphero in here. All these companies are really blazing the way for very new kinds of interactivity. It's not just, this is a Wi-Fi connected helicopter, but it's not just the fact that you can control it with the device. It is absolutely the fact that you're controlling it. It's a sort of a crowd-based thing, so that you can share all, like the Nike Fuel and the Fitbit that I wear. You can share all of your personal statistics with the world at any one time that you want to. I'm also working, another one of Will's spin-offs is a thing called Robot 11, which I'm co-founder of, and they're definitely taking this whole idea of sort of social toys into the next generation. So it's not just that you control a thing, but it's that the thing remembers what you did with it, and it can be transposed over to another toy, and it remembers what you did to it last time, and it remembers where it was and all of your interactions with it, and that's really cool. Then along came sort of open source. Open source has been used, of course, a long time in software, but it's becoming, because of the maker movement, it's become sort of emblematic also of this, the 3D printer movement. This happens to be a thing called WikiHouse, which is an open source house. So you can take a truckload of 4x8 pieces of plywood, take a portable CNC machines, which aren't very expensive, take it to your site, print out your house and put it together with no hammer and no nails or anything else. And that's what these guys are doing. And this just started, and their whole idea was, well, why can't we take this sort of very high-end profession, which I was an architect in early life, so that taking the profession that is really for 1% of the population and democratizing that into the world so that anyone can have access to this kind of things. They can share the models, they can print them out, get a couple of friends together, and put up your house. I'm going to end with last project I'm sort of currently working on, which is basically the most powerful microscope on the planet for 50 cents. What you do is you come up with an idea for this thing. I took it's the lens out of a old dead CD player, and they're about a dime. You take a bunch of kids that are smart with 3D printers, and you connect them all over the world. And what you end up with is this thing. This thing is a little microscope attachment that sits on the end of an iPhone. And you just slide it on, and you print it out, slide it on, and you get pictures like this, which are very cool. I mean, they're very high quality. They're portable. You can go around doing it anywhere you want to. These are just backyard things that the kids did themselves. And then what you end up with, you now combine that with a social app, which we put together, and what you end up with is this. So you take your camera out, and you stick it over a bug that you don't know what it is, and what happens is, it takes that picture of the bug, sends it out, looks at all the other people around, they comment on it, and make their best guess out of it, and give it back to you. So in this case, this was a mock-up that we ran, and in this case, it identified it in a few minutes. It took it. You could do it much faster, but it identified that bug from that picture, and 612 people had commented on it. So what you then have is this. You really have, for literally 50 cents, that you can put in this. You can put this thing in the hand of any kid anywhere in the world. They can print it out locally. They can change the design if it doesn't fit for them. They can comment and help on the open source code for it, and then they have this kind of joint microscope that is incredibly powerful. So that's the end of my short history of it. If there's the slide went to it. I'm glad to chat with anybody afterwards. And we're welcome, I think. At some point, you should come over and visit our studios over in Berkeley, because I think you'd have fun. So thank you.